As I Came Down Mount Tamalpais by Clarence Ermy, read for LibriVox.org by SteveToner. As I came down Mount Tamalpais, to north the fair Sonoma hills lay like a trembling thread of blue beneath a sky of daffodils. Through Tuli's green a silver stream ran south to meet the tranquil bay, whispering a dreamy tender tale of vales and valleys far away. As I came down Mount Tamalpais, to south the city brightly shone, touched by the sunset's goodnight kiss across the golden ocean blown. I saw its hills, its tapering masts, I almost heard its tramp and tread, and saw against the sky the cross which marks the city of the dead. As I came down Mount Tamalpais, to east San Pablo's waters lay, touched with a holy purple light, the benediction of the day. No ripple on its twilight tide, no parting of its evening veil, save dimly in the far-off haze one dreamy yellow sunset sail. As I came down Mount Tamalpais, to west heaven's gateway opened wide, and through it, freighted with day cares, the cloud ships floated with the tide. Then silently through stilly air starlight flew down from paradise, folded her silver wings and slept upon the slopes of Tamalpais. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Burbank with a Baedeker, Bleistein with a Cigar by T.S. Eliot. Read for LibriVox.org by Winston Tharp. Tra la 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 ler, nil nisi divinum stabile est, caetera fumus. The gondola stopped, the old palace was there. How charming its grey and pink, goats and monkeys, with such hair, too. So the countess passed on, till she came through the little park, where Niobe presented her with a cabinet, and so departed. Burbank crossed a little bridge, descending at a small hotel. Princess Volupine arrived. They were together, and he fell. Defunctive music under sea passed seaward with the passing bell, slowly. The god Hercules had left him, that had loved him well. The horses under the axle-tree beat up the dawn from Istria with even feet. Her shuttered barge burned on the water all the day. But this or such was Bleistein's way, a saggy bending of the knees and elbows with the palms turned out, Chicago Semite Viennese. A lustreless protrusive eye stares from the protozoic slime at a perspective of Canaletto. The smoky candle end of time declines. On the Rialto, once. The rats are underneath the piles, the Jew is underneath the lot, money in furs. The boatman smiles. Princess Volupine extends a meagre, blue-nailed, Tizic hand to climb the water-stair. Lights, lights! She entertains Sir Ferdinand Klein. Who clipped the lion's wings and flea'd his rump and pared his claws, thought Burbank, meditating on time's ruins and the 7 laws. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
The Call of the Wild by Robert Service. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Gordon MacKay. The Call of the Wild by Robert Service. Have you gazed on naked grandeur where there's nothing else to gaze on? Set pieces and drop curtain scenes galore. Big mountains heaved to heaven, which the blinding sunsets blaze, and black canyons where the rapids rip and roar. Have you swept the visioned valley with the green stream streaking through it, searched the vastness for a something you have lost? Have you strung your soul to silence? Then for God's sake go and do it. Hear the challenge, learn the lesson, pay the cost. Have you wandered in the wilderness, the sagebrush desolation, the bunch grass levels where the cattle graze? Have you whistled bits of ragtime at the end of all creation, and learned to know the desert's little ways? Have you camped upon the foothills? Have you galloped o'er the ranges? Have you roamed the arid sunlands through and through? Have you chummed up with the mesa? Do you know its moods and changes? Then listen to the wild, it's calling you. Have you known the great white silence? Not a snow-gemmed twig a-quiver, eternal truths that shame our soothing lies. Have you broken trail on snowshoes, mushed your huskies up the river, dared the unknown, led the way and clutched the prize? Have you marked the map's void spaces, mingled with the mongrel races, felt the savage strength of brute in every thew, and though grim as hell the worst is, can you round it off with curses? Then hearken to the wild, it's wanting you. Have you suffered, starved and triumphed, grovelled down yet grasped at glory, grown bigger in the bigness of the whole, done things just for the doing, letting babblers tell their story, seeing through the nice veneer the naked soul? Have you seen God in his splendours, heard the text that nature renders? You'll never hear it in the family pew. There's simple things, the true things, the silent men who do things. Then listen to the wild, it's calling you. They've cradled you in custom, they've primed you with their preaching, they've soaked you in convention through and through. They've put you in a showcase, you're a credit to their teaching, but can't you hear the wild? It's calling you. Let us probe the silent places, let us seek what luck betide us. Let us journey to a lonely land I know. There's a whisper on the night wind, there's a star agleam to guide us, and the wild is calling, calling. Let us go. End of The Call of the Wild, recorded by Gordon MacKay, Urton Hall, Holmrook, Cumbria, 4th January 2014.
A Clear Midnight by Walt Whitman, 1881. Read for LibriVox.org by Blazely Dragon. This is the hour, O soul, thy free flight into the wordless, away from books, away from art, the day erased, the lesson done, thee fully forth emerging, silent, gazing, pondering the themes thou lovest best, night, sleep, death, and the stars. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. A Dream Within a Dream by Edgar Allan Poe. Read for LibriVox.org by Blazely Dragon. Take this kiss upon the brow, and in parting from you now, thus much let me avow, you are not wrong who deem that my days have been a dream. Yet if hope has flown away, in a night or in a day, in a vision or in none, is it therefore the less gone? All that we see or seem is but a dream within a dream. I stand amid the roar of a surf-tormented shore, and I hold within my hand the grains of the golden sand. How few, yet how they creep through my fingers to the deep, while I weep, while I weep. O God, can I not grasp them with a tighter clasp? O God, can I not save one from the pitiless wave? Is all that we see or seem is but a dream within a dream. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Finis by E. E. Cummings. Read for LibriVox.org by Paul Rizik. Over silent waters, Day descending, night ascending, floods the gentle glory of the sunset. In a golden greeting, splendidly to westward, as pale twilight trembles into darkness, comes the last light's gracious exhortation, lifting up to peace, so when life shall falter, standing on the shore of the eternal God, may I behold my sunset, flooding over silent waters. End of Finis, by E. E. Cummings. This recording is in the public domain.
A Health, by Edward Coate Pinkney. Read for LibriVox.org by Lucy Perry. I fill this cup to one made up of loveliness alone, a woman of her gentle sex the seeming paragon, to whom the better elements and kindly stars have given a form so fair that like the air 'tis less of earth than heaven. Her every tone is music's own, like those of morning birds, and something more than melody dwells ever in her words. The coinage of her heart are they, and from her lips each flows, as one may see the burthened bee forth issue from the rose. Affections are as thoughts to her, the measure of her hours. Her feelings have the fragrancy, the freshness of young flowers. And lovely passions, changing oft, so fill her, she appears the image of themselves by turns, the idol of past years. Of her bright face one glance will trace a picture on the brain, and of her voice in echoing hearts a sound must long remain. But memory such as mine of her so very much endears. When death is nigh, my latest sigh will not be life's, but hers. I filled this cup to one made up of loveliness alone, a woman of her gentle sex the seeming paragon. Her health, and would on earth there stood some more of such a frame, that life might be all poetry, and weariness a name. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
I Remember, by Thomas Hood. Read for LibriVox by gribuongiorne. I remember, the house where I was born, the little window where the sun came peeping in at morn. He never came a wink too soon, nor brought too long a day, but now I often wish the night had borne my breath away. I remember, the roses red and white, the violets and the lily cups, those flowers made of light, the lilacs where the robin built and where my brother set, the laburnum on his birthday, the tree is living yet. I remember, where I was used to swing, and thought the air must rush as fresh to swallows on the wing. My spirit flew in feathers then, that is so heavy now, the summer pools could hardly cool the fever on my brow. I remember, the fir trees dark and high, I used to think their slender tops were close against the sky. It was a childish ignorance, but now 'tis little joy to know I'm further off from heaven than when I was a boy. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
I Wandered Lonely as a Cloud by William Wordsworth. Read for LibriVox.org by Catherine Parks. I wandered lonely as a cloud that floats on high o'er vales and hills, when all at once I saw a crowd, a host of golden daffodils, beside the lake, beneath the trees, fluttering and dancing in the breeze. Continuous as the stars that shine and twinkle on the Milky Way, they stretched in never-ending line along the margins of a bay. 10,000 saw I at a glance, tossing their heads in sprightly dance. The waves beside them danced, but they outdid the sparkling waves in glee. A poet could not be but gay in such a jocund company. I gazed and gazed, but little thought what wealth the show to me had brought. For oft, when on my couch I lie, in vacant or in pensive mood, they flash upon that inward eye which is the bliss of solitude, and then my heart with pleasure fills, and dances with the daffodils. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Invictus by William Ernest Henley. Read for LibriVox.org by SkyAlbatross. Out of the night that covers me, black as the pit from pole to pole, I thank whatever gods may be for my unconquerable soul. In the fell clutch of circumstance, I have not winced nor cried aloud. Under the bludgeonings of chance, my head is bloody, but unbowed. Beyond this place of wrath and tears looms but the horror of the shade, and yet the menace of the years finds, and shall find me, unafraid. It matters not how strait the gate, how charged with punishments the scroll. I am the master of my fate. I am the captain of my soul. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. Life by Paul Laurence Dunbar. Read for LibriVox.org by SkyAlbatross. A crust of bread and a corner to sleep in, a minute to smile and an hour to weep in, a pint of joy to a peck of trouble, and never a laugh but the moans come double, and that is life. A crust and a corner that love makes precious, with a smile to warm and the tears to refresh us, and joy seems sweeter when cares come after, and a moan is the finest of foils for laughter, and that is life. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Lucille by Robert W. Service. Read for LibriVox.org by SteveToner. Of course you've heard of the Nancy Lee and how she sailed away on her famous quest of the Arctic flea to the wilds of Hudson's Bay. For it was a foreign prince's whim to collect this tiny cuss, and a golden quid was no more to him than a copper to coves like us. So we sailed away, and our hearts were gay as we gazed on the gorgeous scene, and we laughed with glee as we caught the flea of the wolf and the wolverine. Yeah, our hearts were light as the parasite of the ermine rat we slew, and the great musk ox and the silver fox and the moose and the caribou. And we laughed with zest as the insect pest of the marmot crowned our zeal, and the wary mink and the wily link and the walrus and the seal. And with eyes aglow on the scornful snow we danced a rigadoon round the lonesome lair of the Arctic hare by the light of the silver moon. But the time was nigh to homeward hie, when imagine our despair, for the best of the lot we hadn't got, the flea of the polar bear. Oh, his face was long and his breath was strong, as the skipper he says to me, "I want you to linger here, my lad, by the shores of the Arctic Sea. I want you to hunt the polar bear the perishing winter through, and if flea ye find of its breed and kind, there's 100 quid for you." But I shook my head. "No, Cap," I said. "It's yourself I'd like to please, but I tells you flat I wouldn't do that if ye went on your bended knees." Then the captain spat in the seething brine, and he says, "Good luck to you. If it can't be did for 100 quid, supposin' we call it 2. So that was why they said goodbye, and they sailed and left me there, alone in the Arctic zone, to hunt for the polar bear. Oh, the days were slow and packed with woe, till I thought they would never end, and I used to sit when the fire was lit with my pipe for my only friend. And I tried to sing some rollicky thing, but my song broke off in a prayer. And I'd drowse and dream by the driftwood gleam, I'd dream of a polar bear. I'd dream of a cloud-like polar bear that blotted the stars on high, with ravenous jaws and flensing claws and the flames of hell in his eye. And I'd trap around on the frozen ground as a proper hunter ought, and beasts I'd find of every kind, but never the one I sought. Never a track in the white ice pack that humped and heaved and flawed, till I came to think, why strike me pink if the creature ain't a fraud? And then one night, in the waning light, as I hurried home to sup, I hears a roar by the cabin door, and a great white hulk heaves up. So my rifle flashed, and a bullet crashed, dead as a stone fell he. And I gave a cheer, for there in his ear, gosh ding me, a tiny flea. At last, oh, I clutched it fast, and I gazed on it with pride. And I thrust it into a biscuit tin, and I shut it safe inside. With a lid of glass for the light to pass, and space to leap and play. Oh, it kept alive, seemed to thrive, as I watched it night and day. And I used to sit and sing to it, and I shielded it from harm. And many a hearty feat it had on the heft of my hairy arm. For you'll never know in that land of snow how lonesome a man can feel. So I made a fuss of the little cuss, and I christened it Lucille. But the longest winter has its end, and the ice went out to sea. And I saw one day a ship in the bay, and there was the Nancy Lee. So a boat was lowered, and I went aboard, and they opened wide their eyes. Yes, they gave a cheer when the truth was clear, and they saw my precious prize. And then it was all like a giddy dream, but to cut my story short, we sailed away on the 5th of May to the foreign prince's court, to a palmy land and a palace grand, and the little prince was there, and a fat princess in a satin dress with a crown of gold on her hair. And they showed me into a shiny room, just him and her and me. And the prince, he was pleased and friendly like, and he calls for drinks for 3. And I shows them my battered biscuit tin, and I makes my modest spiel. And they laughed, they did, when I opened the lid, and out there popped Lucille. Oh, the prince was glad, I could soon see that, and the princess, she was too. And Lucille waltzed round on the tablecloth, as she often used to do. And the prince pulled out a purse of gold, and he put it in my hand. And he says, it was worth all that, I'm told, to stay in that nasty land. And then he turned with a sudden cry, and he clutched at his royal beard. And the princess screamed, and well she might, for Lucille had disappeared. She must be here, said his noble nibs, so we hunted all around. Oh, we searched that place, but never a trace of the little beast we found. So I shook my head, and I glumly said, gol darn the saucy cuss. It's mighty queer, but she isn't here, so she must be on one of us. You'll pardon me if I make so free, but there's just one thing to do. If you'll kindly go for half a mo', I'll search me garments through. Then all alone on the shiny throne I stripped from head to heel. In vain, it was very plain that I hadn't got Lucille. So I garbed again, and I told the prince, and he scratched his august head. I suppose if she hasn't selected you, it must be me, he said. So he retired, but he soon came back, and his features showed distress. Oh, it isn't you, and it isn't me. Then we looked at the princess. So she retired, and we heard a scream, and she opened wide the door, and her fingers twain were pinched to pain, but a radiant smile she wore. It's here, she cries, our precious prize. Oh, I found it right away. Then I ran to her with a shout of joy, but I choked with a wild dismay. I clutched the back of the golden throne, and the room began to reel. What she held to me was, yes, a flea, but it wasn't my Lucille. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
A Melody by Scarlatti by Aldous Huxley. Read for LibriVox.org by Tristan Myers. How clear under the trees, how softly the music flows, rippling from one still pool to another into the lake of silence. End of poem. All recordings are in the public domain.
The Men That Don't Fit In by Robert Service. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Gordon MacKay. The Men That Don't Fit In. There's a race of men that don't fit in, a race that can't stay still, So they break the hearts of kith and kin, and they roam the world at will. They range the field and they rove the flood, and they climb the mountain's crest. Theirs is the curse of the gypsy blood, and they don't know how to rest. If they just went straight, they might go far. They are strong and brave and true, but they're always tired of the things that are, and they want the strange and the new. They say, could I find my proper groove, what a deep mark I would make. So they chop and change, and each fresh move is only a fresh mistake. And each forgets as he strips and runs with a brilliant, fitful pace. It's the steady, quiet, plodding ones who win in the lifelong race. And each forgets that his youth has fled, forgets that his prime is past, till he stands one day with a hope that's dead in the glare of the truth at last. He's failed, he's missed his chance, he's just done things by half. Life's been a jolly good joke on him, and now's the time to laugh. Ha-ha, he's one of the legion lost. He was never meant to win. He's a rolling stone, and it's bred in the bone. He's a man who won't fit in. End of The Men That Don't Fit In. Recorded by Gordon MacKay, Urton Hall, Holmrook, Cumbria, 4th of January 2014.
Mnemosyne by Trumbull Stickney. Read for LibriVox.org by Phil Schempf. It's autumn in the country I remember. How warm a wind blew here about the ways, and shadows on the hillside lay to slumber during the long, sun-sweetened summer days. It's cold abroad, the country I remember. The swallows veering skimmed the golden grain at midday with wing aslant and limber, and yellow cattle browsed upon the plain. It's empty down the country I remember. I had a sister lovely in my sight. Her hair was dark, her eyes were very somber. We sang together in the woods at night. It's lonely in the country I remember. The babble of our children fills my ears, and on our hearth I stare the perished ember to flames that show all starry through my tears. It's dark about the country I remember. There are the mountains where I lived. The path is slushed with cattle tracks and fallen timber. The stumps are twisted by the tempest's wrath. But that I knew these places are my own, I asked, how came such wretchedness to cumber the earth, and I to people it alone? It rains across the country I remember. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
No, by Thomas Hood. Read for LibriVox.org by Lucy Perry. No sun, no moon, no morn, no noon, no dawn, no dusk, no proper time of day, no sky, no earthly view, no distance looking blue, no road, no street, no t'other side this way, no end to any row, no indications where the crescents go, no top to any steeple, no recognitions of familiar people, no courtesies for showing 'em, no knowing 'em, no travelling at all, no locomotion, no inkling of the way, no notion, no go by land or ocean, no mail, no post, no news from any foreign coast, no park, no ring, no afternoon gentility, no company, no nobility, no warmth, no cheerfulness, no healthful ease, no comfortable feel in any member, no shade, no shine, no butterflies, no bees, no fruits, no flowers, no leaves, no birds. November. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
November by William Cullen Bryant. Read for LibriVox.org by Phil Schempf. Yet one smile more, departing distant sun, one mellow smile through the soft vapory air, ere o'er the frozen earth the loud winds run, or snows are sifted o'er the meadows bare. one smile on the brown hills and naked trees, and the dark rocks whose summer wreaths are cast, and the blue gentian flower that in the breeze nods lonely of her beauteous race the last. Yet a few sunny days in which the bee shall murmur by the hedge that skirts the way, the cricket chirp upon the russet lea, a man delight to linger in thy ray. Yet one rich smile, and we will try to bear the piercing winter frost and winds and darkened air. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Peace by Henry Vaughan. Read for LibriVox.org by Michael Keane. My soul, there is a country far beyond the stars, where stands a winged sentry all skillful in the wars. There, above noise and danger, sweet peace sits crowned with smiles, and one born in a manger commands the beauteous files. He is thy gracious friend. And, O my soul awake, did in pure love descend to die here for thy sake. If thou canst get but thither, there grows the flower of peace, the rose that cannot wither, thy fortress and thy ease. Leave then thy foolish ranges, for none can thee secure but one who never changes, thy God, thy life, thy cure. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Retort by Paul Lorenz Dunbar. Read for LibriVox.org by SkyAlbatross. Thou art a fool, said my head to my heart. Indeed, the greatest of fools thou art, to be led astray by a trick of a tress, by a smiling face or a ribbon smart. And my heart was in sore distress. Then Phyllis came by, and her face was fair. The light gleamed soft on her raven hair, and her lips were blooming a rosy red. Then my heart spoke out with a right bold air, Thou art worse than a fool, O head. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Rivals by William Walsh. Read for LibriVox.org by Bleistein Dragon. Of all the torments, all the cares, with which our lives are cursed, of all the plagues a lover bears, sure rivals are the worst. By partners in each other kind, afflictions easier grow. In love alone we hate to find companions of our woe. Sylvia, for all the pangs you see are laboring in my breast, I beg not that you would favor me, would you but slight the rest. How great soe'er your rigors are, with them alone I'll cope. I can endure my own despair, but not another's hope. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Silence by Thomas Hood. Read for LibriVox by gribuongiorne. There is a silence where hath been no sound. There is a silence where no sound may be. In the cold grave under the deep, deep sea, or in wide desert where no life is found, which hath been mute, and still must sleep profound. No voice is hushed, no life treads silently, but clouds and cloudy shadows wander free, that never spoke over the idle ground, but in green ruins in the desolate walls of antique palaces, where man hath been, though the dun fox or wild hyena calls, and owls that flit continually between, shriek to the echo, and the low winds moan, there the true silence is, self-conscious and alone. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Sonnet 1 by Fernando Pessoa. Read for LibriVox.org by Rizik. Whether we write or speak, or do but look, We are ever unapparent. What we are cannot be transfused into word or book. Our soul from us is infinitely far. However much we give our thoughts the will to be our soul, and gesture it abroad, our hearts are incommunicable still. In what we show ourselves we are ignored. The abyss from soul to soul cannot be bridged by any skill of thought or trick of seeming. Unto our very selves we are abridged. When we would utter to our thought our being, we are our dreams of ourselves, souls by gleams, and each to each other, dreams of others' dreams. End of Sonnet 1 by Fernando Pessoa. This recording is in the public domain.
Sweeney Among the Nightingales by T.S. Eliot. Read for LibriVox.org by Winston, Tharp. Ape-neck Sweeney spreads his knees, letting his arms hang down to laugh. The zebra stripes along his jaw, swelling to maculate giraffe. The circles of the stormy moon slide westward toward the River Plate. Death and the raven drift above, and Sweeney guards the horned gate. Gloomy Orion and the dog are veiled, and hushed the shrunken seas. The person in the Spanish cape tries to sit on Sweeney's knees, slips and pulls the tablecloth, overturns a coffee cup. Reorganized upon the floor, she yawns and draws a stocking up. The silent man in mocha brown sprawls at the windowsill and gapes. The waiter brings in oranges, bananas, figs, and hothouse grapes. The silent vertebrate in brown contracts and concentrates, withdraws. Rachel, née Rabinovich, tears at the grapes with murderous paws. She and the lady in the cape are suspect, thought to be in league. Therefore the man with heavy eyes declines the gambit, shows fatigue, leaves the room, and reappears outside the window, leaning in. Branches of wisteria circumscribe a golden grin. The host, with someone indistinct, converses at the door apart. The nightingales are singing near the convent of the Sacred Heart, and sang within the bloody wood when Agamemnon cried aloud, and let their liquid droppings fall to stain the stiff, dishonored shroud. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. Sweeney Erect by T.S. Eliot. Read for LibriVox.org by Winston, Tharp. And the trees about me, let them be dry and leafless. Let the rocks groan with continual surges, and behind me make all a desolation. Look, look, wenches. Paint me a cavernous waste shore cast in the unstilted Cyclades. Paint me the bold and fractious rocks, faced by the snarled and yelping seas. Display me Aeolus above, reviewing the insurgent gales which tangle Ariadne's hair and swell with haste the perjured sails. Morning stirs the feet and hands, Nausicaa and Polypheme. Gesture of orangutan rises from the sheets and steam. This withered root of knots of hair, slitted below and gashed with eyes, this oval O cropped out with teeth, the sickle motion from the thighs, jackknifes upward at the knees, then straightens out from heel to hip, pushing the framework of the bed and clawing at the pillow-slip. Sweeney, addressed full length to shave, broad-bottomed, pink from nape to base, knows the female temperament and wipes the suds around his face. The lengthened shadow of a man is history, said Emerson, who had not seen the silhouette of Sweeney straddled in the sun. Test the razor on his leg, waiting until the shriek subsides. The epileptic on the bed curves backward, clutching at her sides. The ladies of the corridor find themselves involved, disgraced, call witness to their principles, and deprecate the lack of taste, observing that hysteria might easily be misunderstood. Mrs. Turner intimates it does the house no sort of good. But Doris, towelled from the bath, enters padding on broad feet, bringing sal volatile and a glass of brandy neat. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Symphony in Yellow by Oscar Wilde. Read for LibriVox.org by Lucy Perry. An omnibus across the bridge crawls like a yellow butterfly, and here and there a passer-by shows like a little restless midge. Big barges, full of yellow hay, are moored against the shadowy wharf, and, like a yellow silken scarf, the thick fog hangs along the quay. The yellow leaves begin to fade and flutter from the temple elms, and at my feet the pale green Thames lies like a rod of rippled jade. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
There Was a Boy by William Wordsworth. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Gordon MacKay. There Was a Boy by William Wordsworth. There was a boy, ye knew him well, ye cliffs and islands of Winander. Many a time at evening, when the earliest stars began to move along the edges of the hills, rising or setting, would he stand alone beneath the trees, or by the glimmering lake, and there, with fingers interwoven, both hands pressed closely palm to palm, and to his mouth uplifted, he as through an instrument blew mimic hootings to the silent owls, that they might answer him. And they would shout across the watery vale, and shout again, responsive to his call, with quivering peals and long halloos and screams and echoes loud, redoubled and redoubled, concourse wild of jocund din. And when there came a pause of silence, such as baffled his best skill, then sometimes in that silence, while he hung listening, a gentle shock of mild surprise has carried far into his heart the voice of mountain torrents, or the visible scene would enter unawares into his mind, with all its solemn imagery, its rocks, its woods, and that uncertain heaven received into the bosom of the steady lake. This boy was taken from his mates and died in childhood ere he was full 12 years old. Preeminent in beauty is the vale where he was born and bred. The churchyard hangs upon a slope above the village school, and through that churchyard, when my way has led on summer evenings, I believe that there a long half hour together I have stood, mute, looking at the grave in which he lies. End of There Was a Boy, recorded by Gordon MacKay, Burton Hall, Holmrook, Cumbria, 4th January 2014.
To Autumn by William Blake. Read for LibriVox.org by Phil Schempf. O autumn, laden with fruit and stained with the blood of the grape, pass not, but sit beneath my shady roof. There thou mayest rest, and tune thy jolly voice to my fresh pipe, and all the daughters of the year shall dance. Sing now the lusty song of fruits and flowers. The narrow bud opens her beauties to the sun, and love runs in her thrilling veins. Blossoms hang round the brows of morning, and flourish down the bright cheek of modest eve, till clustering summer breaks forth into singing, and feathered clouds strew flowers round her head. The spirits of the air live on the smells of fruit, and joy with pinions light roves round the gardens, or sits singing in the trees. Thus sang the jolly autumn as he sat, then rose, girded himself, and o'er the bleak hills fled from our sight, but left his golden load. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Which Are You by Ella Wheeler Wilcox. Read for LibriVox.org by Stephen Perry. There are two kinds of people on earth today. Just two kinds of people, no more, I say. Not the sinner and saint, for it's well understood, the good are half bad, and the bad are half good. Not the rich and the poor, for to rate a man's wealth, first you must know the state of his conscience and health. Not the humble and proud, for in life's little span, who puts on a vain airs is not counted a man. Not the happy and sad, for the swift flying years bring each man his laughter, and each man his tears. No, the two kinds of people on earth, I mean, are the people who lift and the people who lean. Wherever you go you will find the earth's masses are always divided in just these two classes. And oddly enough you will find too, I ween, there's only one lifter to 20 who lean. In which class are you? Are you easing the load of overtaxed lifters who toil down the road? Or are you a leaner who lets others share your portion of labor and worry and care? End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. Young and Old by Charles Kingsley. Read for LibriVox.org by Stephen Perry. When all the world is young, lad, and all the trees are green, and every goose a swan, lad, and every lass a queen, then hey for boot and horse, lad, and round the world away. Young blood must have its course, lad, and every dog its day. When all the world is old, lad, and all the trees are brown, and all the sport is stale, lad, and all the wheels run down, creep home and take your place there, the spent and maimed among. God grant you find one face there you loved when all was young. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.